Call to order and roll call.
Chair Goss.
Present.
Vice Chair Swap is excused. Commissioner McCoy.
Here.
Commissioner Smaby. Here. Commissioner Sixta is excused. Commissioner Sprinkle.
Here.
Commissioner Waters.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. You may be seated. Welcome to the City of Kingman meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. First off, we have presentations. Our first is recognition of Commissioner Sarkeesian for his service to the City of Kingman.
Chair Goss, Commission, thank you. Unfortunately, former Commissioner Sarkeesian couldn't be with us this evening. However, I did want to take a moment to formally recognize his service that he provided to the City of Kingman, as well as to this commission from 2022 to 2025. So although absent tonight, we certainly want to appreciate and extend our gratitude and thanks for his service to this community. So with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jason. I will add to that. Definitely congratulations for helping us out, and hope you enjoy your time off. All right, next we have the Commission Handbook Overview presentation.
Good evening, Chair Goss and Commission members. I am Andy Meredith, your City Clerk, and today I am going to give a quick overview of the updated Board and Commission Handbook. This is not to be confused with the Planning and Zoning Commission Handbook that Director Moquin has created and provided for you. This is all boards and commissions across the city, including planning and zoning. So I put a copy on your table spots for you. There is a page at the very back of it that is an acknowledgement. I just ask if at your convenience you could sign that, turn it into Ashley. She'll get it back to my office. I'm not going to go through the handbook page by page. I am just going to highlight a couple of really important points that we wanted to make sure that everybody understood and was aware of. So first, what are your responsibilities as commission members? The responsibility is really you provide that valuable communication link between the community and the city council. We do expect that you attend all of the meetings. 3 or more unexcused absences will result in removal. That is written into our code. And for our determining of what an unexcused absence is, it is if you have not notified staff 24 hours before the meeting that you will not be in attendance. So if you notify them ahead of time, then we will consider that to be unexcused. There's an expectation that you are reviewing your backup material ahead of time. You're informed on the items that are being brought before you, that you solicit feedback on these items as being a representative of the community on this commission, from friends, neighbors, community members, whoever you talk to in your circles of influence, and then, have that as part of the conversation contribution that you bring. And then lastly, to be engaged. The role of the chairperson is really to coordinate with the staff liaison on the meeting agendas, to preside over the meetings, to encourage discussion amongst the commission members on items, to keep the meeting on track, making sure we're not venturing off topic and those kinds of things, and then making sure all participants are treated with respect. The role of the vice chair is really just to do the duties of a commissioner, but also to step in for the chairperson if they happen to be absent. The role of the council liaison is to attend board and commission meetings as an observer and then provide updates as needed to the council. They also review all of the vacancy applications that we get and recommend appointments to fill those during the discussion. And then encourage and support you guys to achieve the mission and the goals that the council has identified for you. The role of the staff liaison is to attend the commission meetings, to assist the chair with meeting management and decorum. work directly with the recording secretary to prepare the agenda, send it out to the commission, make sure you have the information you need to communicate with your commission members, to report back to the city manager any issues that there is with commissioner attendance. Commissioner attendance in the last couple of years had become an issue, so the council has asked us to monitor that more closely, which is why we are now tracking attendance. Report to my office if there's any resignations or vacancies so we can get those advertised and filled. We refill any vacancy that has more than a year left on the term. If it's under a year, we do not fill it. And then, again, just to encourage and support you guys to achieve your mission that's been outlined by the council. The role of the recording secretary, again, attend the meetings, work with staff liaison for that agenda preparation, making sure the information gets out to the commission members. What I didn't put on here is the recording secretary is also responsible for taking and publishing the minutes and the action agendas and those types of things. The recording secretary will often also communicate with you guys, and then we work directly with the recording secretaries as well. Some important reminders, we just want to make sure everybody's aware, boards and commissions have no financial, operational, or oversight authority over the city or city departments. Contact should be with the staff member assigned to the board and commission. So for you guys, that would be Director Moquin. It should pertain to the items that come before your commission. If you're not clear on policies, then we ask that you just come reach out to us and let us help explain those to you. Should not ask for individual reports, favors, or special considerations, and should recognize that while you work with the staff does report to the supervisor or city manager and not to the board or commission. And then boards and commissions are not allowed to create subcommittees. With regards to requesting an agenda item, there is a spot on your agendas that allows for you to request future reports and updates. That is the appropriate time to request an agenda item. Again, agendas are set by the staff liaison, and if you do request something, it is up to their discretion should they feel that that could come back. Information could be shared via an email, or maybe it's a report and not necessarily an agenda item that needs to come back. And then with agenda items, we don't allow for if somebody is going to be absent, that they ask to have agenda items held over. So we want to make sure that we are having business regularly scheduled, having the meetings. If somebody can't attend, that's okay. We do provide the recordings. But again, you can't ask to have items held. Calling for a special meeting. So we do allow for commissions to call for special meetings if there is something that your commission needs to address or bring forth that needs to happen before your next regularly scheduled meeting. Those are up to city manager approval and meeting room availability. So we have several boards and commissions that all use this same space. So we just take those things into consideration before scheduling special meetings. And that is my super quick overview of the handbook. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. All right, next we have our approval of minutes. These are the regular meeting minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission from January 14th, 2026. Can I get a motion in a second?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Great, we have a motion in a second. Can I get a roll call vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's been approved.
Great, thank you. All right, next we have the call to the public. These are comments from the public. Those wishing to address the commission should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The commission may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The commission may direct the staff to study the matter or request that the matter be placed on a future agenda. Do we have any comments?
We do not.
Thank you. All right, next we have the first action item. This is the appointment of chairperson for 2026. At the beginning of each year, the commission needs to select a chairperson. And I'm going to open this up for commission discussion. Well, I am more than willing to serve as the chair again if that is agreeable to everybody, or feel free to pick somebody new.
And I'm also willing to volunteer for that position.
So do we have some discussion, other people wanting to go for that, or we can just do nominations? Make motions.
I'd just like to comment that I thought Commissioner Schwab did a great job last meeting. She was really on point and kind of reined us in a bit. So I'm not sure what effect it has with her not being here right now, if she wanted to continue on in the vice position.
Well, vice chair is next.
Vice chair.
We're going to do the chair first, and then vice chair will come right after that.
If you plan on stepping down, then she would probably be the next logical one to move. Sure. That's good to go. Thank you.
Okay, then we just need some,
I would suggest that if you're willing to serve as chairperson, that I would nominate you.
okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, can we get a roll call vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's been approved.
Okay, well, thank you guys for your vote of confidence. Next, we are going to do appointment of the vice chairperson for 2026. At the beginning of each year, the commission needs to select a vice chairperson. So we can discuss this as a commission. If you're interested, we could think about postponing this action item if we want to wait for more people, if that's something you want to do. I don't know.
If you're asking me for my opinion, we have a quorum, so we can certainly have the discussion tonight. We do have two members that are absent this evening, and Vice Chair Swap's position, if she were to be nominated, we could still move forward this evening with that.
Okay. On the condition that she did not want that role, would we just do it again?
Then, correct. If she
Okay.
preferred that not be the case, then we would just hold a subsequent meeting and
Okay.
a subsequent vote and appointment for it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, so do we have any discussion on who is interested in that role?
Just general discussion. I noted that Commissioner Sprinkle is interested in the position. I think these roles are critical to get, talented people moving up through the city, in the higher roles and higher commissions and maybe even the council someday. So I do think Jen did a great job given all of her children and all of her responsibilities to come here and provide good support. I'd hate to see her miss out on an opportunity to serve just because of something with her children or whatever's happening today. So I would strongly recommend, waiting till next session when we have a full house where we vote on that.
I will say it's kind of anybody's guess when we're going to have a full house. So it's hard to know exactly. So are you interested in the position?
Yes, I'm interested, but I agree with Commissioner Waters that Jennifer certainly did a good job last time.
Okay.
So if it would please the commission could go ahead and proceed forward tonight and nominate Vice Chair Swap and vote accordingly. And then should she wish to not fulfill that role, then we would put it back on the very next agenda and we'd bring it back and we could have the commission reconsider.
Okay. All right, well, is our general consensus that we would like Swap to be the vice chair? Because if so, we could just vote on it now. If anybody else has a different idea, we could also consider that, so.
Madam Chair, I'm still under the impression too that I think the person should be here if they want to accept that position or not.
It's the commission's discretion this evening.
Well, right, but how do you all feel?
She has the option to say no.
Correct. So
So,
if you guys,
I
if
think we
we
should just go
want
ahead and
Swap,
move
then we can
forward
just
and
go
make
ahead
the
and vote.
nominations and,
And if she says no, then we can do it again.
correct.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm kind of inclined to agree with Commissioner, maybe like coming back and being told that you're going to be in this commission and then peer pressured into taking the job. It'd be kind of nice if we had the vote while she's here,
I think Jen is a strong enough woman to refuse something she has no interest in
Okay,
doing.
all right. You know her better than I do, so.
We have to have a standing chair and vice chair
Yes.
in order to proceed, so.
So how about we nominate, take a vote. If Jen doesn't want to do it, she will let us know. I have confidence in her.
I move that we take a vote, and if Jen doesn't want to do it, then we let her say no. Per Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, do we have a
So
nomination?
that's a nomination for her?
Yes.
Okay, do we
I
have a
would
second?
second that.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Can I get a vote on that?
Yeah, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Chair Goss,
Approve.
Commissioner McCoy,
Approve?
Commissioner Smaby,
Approved.
Commissioner Sprinkle,
Approve.
Commissioner Waters.
Approved.
It's been approved.
Great, thank you. All right, next we have a report, and that is an update from the 2025 APA Land Use Conference. Staff to provide a brief presentation summarizing key themes, emerging trends, and best practices discussed in the 2025 APA Annual Conference. The recap will highlight information relevant to current planning initiatives and potential applications for the City of Kingman.
I apologize, it is getting the best of me here.
If I can just make a reminder for all of those at the dais and anybody speaking to speak directly into your mics and make sure that your mics are on so the recordings can pick it up. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Chair Goss and Commissioners. My name is Heather Rasmussen. I'm a planner with the Planning and Zoning Division of the Development Services Department, and I was lucky enough to attend the 2025 Arizona APA Conference last year in September, and I'm here this evening to present to you a brief recap of that conference. The American Planning Association had the theme of There's No Place Like Home, Advancing Arizona for the annual conference of 2025. And the attendees included Chair Goss, Commissioner Sixta, our Director Jason, our Senior Planner Amy, and myself. Like any great conference, it kept along with that theme, and there was 5 different conference tracks which went through a variety of different industry impacts, if you will, including economic development, infrastructure, resilience and climate, smart growth, economics and quality of life, ADUs, affordability, aging in place, inclusive planning, community building, and public involvement, just to name a few of those conference topics. Overall, there was 40 educational conference sessions offered over the 3 days of the conference, and between the commissioners and staff, we were able to attend 15 individual sessions by strategically planning our time as to who went where so we could get the most sessions under our belts. On Wednesday, this is a lot of words. I will not just read this. I'll give you an overview. So I don't drone on for you. But on Wednesday, September 3rd, we started the day off with Ethics Cases of the Year. This was an interesting panel discussion that really brought to the forefront the ethics and the issues that come up in planning. As a newer planner myself, I found this incredibly interesting because there's so much in the industry that I never thought about. I've never thought about it being a problem. So some of those key takeaways being even well-intentioned staff can face conflicts of interest and disclosure and due process problems, and that proactive documentation and transparency always remains to be the best protection for planners and the agencies they serve. We attended the 2025 legislative law update. This is something that Jason and others follow throughout the year very closely, but I found it to be incredibly informative as the law is always shifting. And as you have seen, our own law, our own zoning code and municipal code have changed over the years. Statewide, it's even more so. So I found that to be incredibly interesting and the conversation that go behind some of those ideas as to why the law is changing. We enjoyed a keynote luncheon, and this was a particularly interesting conversation from Mr. Gamage, who grew up in the Valley, and the historical reflection on the growth in the Phoenix area was particularly focused around the growth in the Tempe area. But what it really highlighted was that understanding your history helps you understand how you can grow in the future and how you can plan that growth. I then attended the tax increment financing, the Let's Talk TIF, and I'm particularly interested in that as I find creative ways of financing in a municipal environment to be incredibly interesting. And in Arizona, we have a lot of state statute regulations that prevent us from going down those roads. So this structure of the TIF was particularly interesting that they employed down in, Tucson. And very, very successful situation with their downtown district and reinventing their incremental tax gains back into the district for growth. Jason and Amy had the opportunity to attend the overlay efforts in rural Arizona, both finding that to be an incredibly interesting and helpful conversation about development in rural communities. When you attend conferences like this, particularly statewide ones that are held in an urban environment, that's where the conversation is centered. We are often forgot about out here in the rural communities, so to have some topics that were very central to the rural communities and our needs and our challenges was very encouraging. They found that the flexibility of the overlay zones really helps to not necessarily rewrite, but it enhances the zoning code, and it allows for special uses that are particularly helpful for your historical districts that you want to preserve. We attended the future of parking. This one I thought interesting because if you read between the lines, you can probably pull a lot of really good information out of this. Again, very focused on urban development, walkability, micromobility, and the way our city is laid out, that's not necessarily applicable. But if you start to apply some of the theories and the perspectives behind it as to, say, lowering your parking requirements. Why do we need a sea of parking out in front of a store that never fills it? That could be used differently. You can reimagine your parking and take that land and have a higher and better use for it. So found that to be very urban focused, but many of those points could be very easily brought here into a rural community. And then advancing health, connectivity, and sustainability. Amy particularly enjoyed this as how the case study of the Cocopah tribe, I apologize if I mispronounced that, worked to improve the quality of their life and their community by investing in the infrastructure and their environmental investment. They particularly worked in an area of environmental restoration, and if I recall correctly, they're located on the river. So that was a large focus of their restoration project. Thursday we enjoyed, again, sticking with that theme, no place like home. This one was centered around a community and the increase in Latino homeownership nationwide, and that the fact that homeownership is central to long-term wealth creation, and that data-driven policy advocacy is really what's helping to reduce those barriers getting into the housing market for a lot of the underserved communities. We attended the Arts District, Digital Signs and Economic Prosperity. I thought this one was particularly interesting because you can take digital signage in a variety of different forms and really turn it into public art and landscape, streetscape improvements, all while working to reinvest in downtown revitalization. I have a history in working in downtown revitalization, and what we've done here in Kingman is quite impressive, and I saw that this could be something that might be of great interest and value to enhancing the already great work that's been happening downtown. So some really neat ideas there. I really enjoyed that one. Attended a town hall for the workforce community. This was an interesting interactive discussion. Didn't expect it to look like this. Sat around some tables and really were given some prompts to discuss what does workforce look like in your community and how is the planning side of your community impacting your workforce and how they can better attend work, better get those jobs. So an interesting topic to bring into a planning conference, but a lot of interesting people there. Went into some scalable shade strategies, always being out in the Arizona desert. Again, this particular case study was focused in Phoenix and down in Tucson, but the same idea of being able to apply it here, being able to put the pop-up shade structures around. One instance in this case study, it was an art competition. And how could you do that within 24 hours and serve the community with this intention? So particularly neat idea, getting, I would say school age, but more high school age children involved, in participating. And then as you work to build out your planning documents and your long-term plans, you know, is it trees? Is it overhangs? Is it shade structures built into your main primary structure? What was that focus going to look like as you grew going forward, incorporating the shade focus? Community corridors down in the Tucson zoning, interesting in how they're reshaping their corridors, that they're supporting housing, transit, and economic development all in one. A lot of combination, bringing them in a mixed use variety, and then also reflecting back to that parking discussion of the parking reductions and the overlays from the other conversation about encouraging infill development. And then, of course, it goes into conversation about climate, water, and energy. As I mentioned, we're always affected here in the Southwest with some of these, not only the heat and needing the shade, but water and energy limitations are core central topics of planning issues. These days you hear about it a lot, and that's a lot of what shows up in the law update as well. So it was very interesting to be able to learn other perspectives of how you can integrate sustainability and do so in a creative and long-lasting way. Friday, the quick hits, this was based on housing equity and affordability, and that included, again, hearkening back to the conversation around some of the underserved communities having housing barriers, and some of that data coming out discussing the language barriers and some of what comes into influencing their ability to get financing, and then to work through how they can have some of that financial literacy for the affordable home ownership. Santan Valley did an interesting presentation about their urban core and zoning journey. Amy was very familiar with this area, very much attended or enjoyed attending this, and how they can create in their area these large master planned communities, and they have what's called a floating zoning district. It's not something I can wrap my head around, quite honestly, but she found it to be quite interesting. Maybe Jason's familiar with it, but it allows for very flexible large-scale developments and special district designations, and they're seeing quite a lot of success with that. So we packed a lot into 3 days, and as part of that, we're very proud to have become an Arizona APA annual sponsor. The city of Kingman was able to, as you can see here, gain a lot of benefit from our very reasonably priced annual sponsorship, and it's not just for the conference, it goes all year long. We're featured throughout their marketing and other assistance provided by the Arizona APA through that sponsorship. But specifically, we're excited for the marketing. We get greater exposure of our recruitment opportunities. Being a rural community, it is hard to find people that are the right fit for some of these job openings. And so we're able to now utilize this sponsorship and leverage them to reach out across the state. Definitely increased visibility for Northern Arizona and other rural communities in the area. Just having your name out there front and center of people reminds people that we are here. And they very much honor their sponsorship in putting us on all the advertising, the website, and calling you out as a sponsor. And definitely allows for greater participation, basically having a larger, better, louder seat at the table, if you will. It provides us that voice where we can work with our partners and provide a voice for rural Arizona. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
Madam Chair, just like these typically have a very strong opinion, these sort of conferences, like usually in the keynote. And I noticed the keynote was historic planning patterns. Like, was it, I assume they were trying to tell us a particular pattern in the past not to adhere to in the future, right? Is that the gist of that particular presentation? Like, let me just give you an example. Like 2 years back, it was casitas were the answer to everything. Everything revolved around a casita. That was going to be the solution for everything. And then I assume they didn't do a follow-up on it because it probably didn't pan out like they thought. The last one, it was affordable housing and panic. That was like the theme of the whole thing was affordable housing. We need to panic about it right now. What I'm looking for and why I requested this sort of presentation was to, what should we as a community be worried about? Like the fad that the planner community is behind, that it's going to steamroll our legislative changes for the next year. That was an overreaction to begin with. Like, did you pick up anything like that and all these little, like a common thread that they're really pushing hard without thinking? That type of
Well,
thing?
I can speak for myself in the sessions I attended. I did not particularly find any one specific theme, as the topics were very widespread. To your question about the Key Luncheon, Mr. Gamage really spoke to the history of his family in the valley and how they grew that area, their involvement with ASU. Is it ASU? No, I'm sorry, it's U of A. And the growth of the university, and then how that kind of spurred out growth around it. So it was a really very interesting historical conversation on that keynote, but I would defer to Chair Goss or to Jason as to what they took away.
I actually thought the conference was much more focused on where it was situated. As opposed to other conferences in the past, I feel like they didn't talk too much about where they are, but this one had so much information about like this particular location. And we, like the luncheon was about like their family. And then we heard about, you know, how the city itself in that area was solidified and then what they did with their parking. Like it was very, very focused on how they had created their community, almost more than just a broad Arizona like picture. I felt like theirs was very centered on them, which was different, but it was interesting.
All right, well,
I don't know, Jason, did you get a?
Yeah, Chair Goss, Commission. The overall theme really did come back to having this opportunity for housing and a home for everybody. When you look at what the keynote speakers were talking about, it was density, it was leaving behind and getting rid of, you know, these mass parking areas, creating opportunities for housing, creating opportunities for, and I'll say affordable housing, but more or less financing opportunities, things that really go above and beyond what we do every day as a role as a planner. They're really starting to get into policy that gets driven down from the federal side of things, from a financing perspective, down to the state level, grants, things of that nature. In general, I'll go back a little bit. The Arizona APA really does try to focus on Arizona. However, the APA still answers up to the National American Planning Association. The National Planning Association, from that perspective, does really take on the role of pushing agenda and policy that's coming out of the federal government. And of course, when you have a change in leadership, you know, as we do on the federal level, some of those policies and directives start to change from one previous administration to another. This last year, I will say, was probably not one of the best conferences I've ever attended.
The food was also terrible.
The food was bad, but the topics in general were very much biased towards one arena, and that was really pushing just affordable housing for a specific demographic segment, not even a community for all. So it kind of didn't really speak to what the overall intent of the conference was, I think. Some of the national stuff I'll take away from that, the parking. I will tell you on a national level, they are really pushing that, you know, parking is not something that is necessarily needed. It should be left up to the individual businesses and the individual patrons to determine whether or not they want to shop or go there. However, from a planner's perspective, even in a downtown urban environment, the takeaway is if you don't provide parking on site, you are now impacting your roadways. You're impacting other areas of your municipality. So,
And I
although
will
we may not need
say,
to see a parking,
so they said that over and over and over, and they pointed to their very minimal parking along their street lines. But when I drove through the city, I think I counted at least 3 gigantic parking garages.
Right.
That were just off the main street. And so they were touting that, but they definitely weren't doing it.
right, so they look at going vertical with parking, so you don't have a sea of parking, but you have a structure. And of course, again, this was very much centered around the ASU campus. The parking structures are all city-owned for the most part, and you pay your fair share to park there. Even as an attendee to the conference, we paid to park there. But that was one of the big takeaways was the parking, and that's where we have to differentiate between, from a planner's perspective, what works in an urban environment where you have mass transit, you have busing, you have, the light rail and so forth that's down in the valley area, as opposed to what works in Kingman. So when we attend those conferences, as much as they are themed, and yes, there probably is a specific thought process behind what that programming is, we try to go in there and take away from it what we can bring back to Kingman and works for Kingman. And I will tell you, the rural overlay was something that we brought back. When we implemented the 2026 code and the zoning code, we actually implemented some of the things that they brought back down into the Globe area. And we implemented that with our transect zones, where we did away with transect zones, but in creating the downtown districts, we wanted to create some additional flexibility within those areas as well. So we were able to do that. I think one of the bigger key takeaways when we talk about affordable housing and this workforce housing is it needs to be also kept in mind is that workforce housing in the valley is different than workforce housing in rural Kingman or Mojave County. We do have a disparaging difference in wage earners, both in those two particular areas. But the biggest takeaway is workforce housing is not low-income housing. And that's what I want to make sure that, when we talk about housing opportunities, you'll all hear me say it a lot is, a diversity of housing product. We want a diverse type of housing opportunities for those that reside here in Kingman. It has nothing to do with what the affordable price point is. That's really not our role, even as planners. That is something that is always going to be driven by the market itself. But it's our role is really just to make sure that we have a diverse opportunity for housing. So whether that be single-family homes of various sizes, duplex, triplexes, fourplexes, multifamily, that will always be something that we look to implement through our general plan as well as our zoning ordinance and ADUs, which of course, as Commissioner Waters was talking about, it was a big push. It was a big push because there was a lot of legislative matters that were moving forward in that same fiscal or in that same calendar year. And of course, with that, they were mostly adopted. And then there was additional legislation that came back after the fact, which you saw in the 2026 code, we went ahead and implemented as well, because we saw the writing on the wall. What they implemented in 2024 and 2020, early 24 and late 23, when it came to ADUs, there was a threshold that was set at 75,000 for municipalities. At the same time, it established zero thresholds for the counties. The counties did not have to actually adopt a lot of the ADU ordinances. Some of that legislative language came back this last year, and of course, the counties were now required to adopt ADU requirements. Knowing that that was the case, the city went ahead and we updated our ordinances to be compliant, even though we didn't meet that 75,000 population threshold. Again, we want to try to remain consistent with our neighboring county as well as our neighboring city partners. So I think when you see what's going into this next legislative session, I will just briefly touch on it. There's a total of 77 bills that we are tracking. 25 of them are water related. This is the first time that we've actually carved out water in our tracking that we do. And then we have 52 bills that are roughly planning related matters that we are tracking, of which some will have significant impacts upon local municipalities.
Yeah, go ahead.
Director, just a quick question. On the ADU and the legislative stuff, did you get any feedback from the more rural areas? Because it seemed like the legislation was more for high-density, city areas and stuff like that. Because I do know it's going to affect the county quite a bit with that density.
With the League of Cities, the way it was adopted and the legislation that came down, it did provide for various aspects for local municipalities that were under 75,000 in population that we could adopt. There were certain things that we had to adopt, certain things that we did not have to adopt. From a perspective of looking at it universally across the city, ADUs are something that whether we adopted it or not, it was going to come back in this next legislative session, and they were going to peel it back a little bit more and likely enforce it upon the municipalities as it is. And so with that, we just moved forward with it. Keeping in mind, some of the biggest changes is ownership no longer has to reside on the property. You no longer can require additional parking for these types of units. So it really relaxed it. You didn't have to have additional registration or deed restrictions on the properties. Some of this becomes very cumbersome just from a municipality to track, as well as with the county for adding on the deed restrictions and so forth. So a lot is what the state did from a legislative standpoint is they took away and they stripped all of those minor details out of the equation. And so with that, that's what the city moved forward with. Essentially, we took exactly what the county was going to adopt and we adopted it at the same time.
Madam Chair, I'm sure everybody here appreciated that recap. Both of you guys did. It really just helps us get an overview of the whole system, especially the insights that you took away. I really appreciate that. Regarding the ADU specifically, we already bumped into one of the restrictions on traffic that you just mentioned, where suddenly, you can't even consider that. You know, the attorney was appraising this. So I don't know, some of the results of these meetings or just the collaboration of all these planners can be a little insidious later on in arrears. It's good that we have an upfront on it. So based on the diplomatic language that Jason's providing us right now, I strongly encourage you to watch out for financing and planning of developments, because I know these meetings, they get a little weird with people that have their ideas. You're stating it very calmly, but I'm sure there's something alarming in what you're telling us right now that we should probably be aware of. Thank you, Jason.
Chair Goss, Commission. With respect to the 77 bills that we are monitoring this year, I will say it has the least amount of impactful bills that could impact our municipal government or the city of Kingman this next year. So we are watching them very closely. There are some that we do have concerns about. We will certainly be writing letters should we see them advancing any further. But for the takeaway with the League of Cities and the Arizona Planning Association is there was a lot of housing-related bills, a lot of zoning-related matters that were on the legislature's table last year. And so what we saw this year is very few of those matters. Most of the things that are in here are all state-level related matters. A lot has to deal with state lands, just in how state lands is looked at, how the state lands are disposed of. The state had a pretty comprehensive audit that they went through, and so a lot of the bills are really focusing on the implementation measures of that audit. Again, there are some that are going to be locally potentially impacting us. We'll monitor those closely. A lot of them also are regurgitated bills that didn't make it out of any of the committees last year. So I can tell you a couple of those have to deal with if you are a church, religious-owned property. Last year, there was a bill that allowed for, should it had been adopted, they would have been allowed to do any type of multifamily development on church-owned property without any legislative review. So nothing before the Planning and Zoning Commission or the City Council, did not require a zone change. That did not proceed forward last year. It got tabled. That bill is back again this year. However, they have scaled it back and they have limited it to senior housing only. So it's coming back. It's just got a small spin on it. Another one that is progressing through right now is churches or 503c organizations. They would be allowed to have food banks by right on their property, distribution and collection of food. Currently, they would require, in our current zoning, it would require them to be in a commercial zone, a C3 designation. So that's one that we are watching. We were approached by several entities this last year looking to do that. So it's not just the city of Kingman that's getting that. If it's making its way into the legislature, you have other organizations, other nonprofits, other religious organizations that are pushing those matters as well. So,
thank you, Jason.
Thank you. All right, next we have announcements by commission members. This is limited to announcements, board and commission liaison reports, availability or attendance at conferences and seminars. Do we have any announcements? No? All right. Well, then the last thing we have is requests for future reports and updates. Are there any reports or updates coming that we need to know? No? All right, then we are good. Mission, meeting adjourned.